Did they? I'm gonna wait just a few seconds. We're waiting on two people, so. Hopefully they come.
Somebody spoke to Brenda today.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, she's been in my office. After we were done with transit meeting, she came to my office.
What time was that?
Probably 12:30.
Oh, I spoke to her. 3-ish, maybe. I don't recall anymore.
I'm surprised because she missed the transit meeting, so it was about that.
Huh. Yvonne, when we start, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I would be done.
Let's go ahead, I guess. We got 5:30.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Jenny David.
Here.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Here.
Brenda Simmons. Craig Scott.
Approve of the agenda. Any additions, commissioners, or corrections?
I don't have any.
Appointments. Yvonne DeRosa, Housing Committee. Come on up, guys. We're gonna whip through this. Let's get some snow tonight. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us. I have all my notes, so I won't keep you guys. I'm here on behalf of the Housing Committee, which I'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to have that committee. We've worked really hard in the last year. We have our Facebook page ready to go, website almost ready to go. We have a logo. We have a mission statement. There have been a few of us that have been out there beating the bushes looking for money. And it isn't all about the money, it's about learning how to get the money. Charlie and Penny and I are attending the regional meetings. And trying to find out how we can better work with the regional to get some of their funding. One of the things that we're doing is we're building databases so that we can have local developers and builders on that database. Also funding possibilities and site availability. We are going to have a developers open house on February 26th. It'll be from 5:30 to 8 at Ogemaw Township.
Can you repeat that again?
February 20, it's the developers open house.
Okay.
February 26th from 5:30 to 8 at Ogemaw Township Hall on Gray Road. And Ogemaw Township has very nicely given us the hall to use at no cost. We'll have speakers from the state to talk about the funding that could be available and answer questions about how the developers and builders may be able to apply for some of those funds. In 2024, there was 1.5 million. Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong. $1.5 million in funds available for our region. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's actually,
And 165,000 was used out of 1.5 million. In 2025, and this is for the region, this isn't like for us, it's for the region, so you have to apply for it. 2025, there's 7.5 million going to be available.
for that's just our
That's-
northeast.
That's the
housing.
north, that's 10 counties can have the availability of that $7.5 million. So it's very important that we keep moving forward to figure out how we can do this. That's why the open house is so important, why our committee is so important. The EDC had an economic outlook breakfast. Housing was the key. We had Boone DeShano from DeShano Development there to talk about housing. And then some of the people on the committee were part of a question and answer um, panel. And it was just very good, and it brought about a prompt for a request for a presentation to the Rose City, City Council. So I did that myself. Penny was there also. Charlie had another meeting he had to be at. I don't remember what night it was. But it was really interesting to give them the information that we had. Sparked a couple phone calls. We're gonna try and help them and with anything that we can. And 2025, besides our open house, we plan to visit some of the municipalities' meetings to discuss the possible funding sources. There's a neighborhood enterprise zone, which is through the state treasury. It's a tax abatement program. And the municipalities would have to do that. And then the one that we've been working through, which is where the funds, the 7.5 million is based, is through my neighborhood grant, which is for new construction and rehabilitation of homes. I know that we're coming up for new appointments. Reached out to the municipalities and asked for letters of recommendation on reappointments and some new appointments for our committee.
Going as far as the committee itself, like members.
For members, yes, which you guys will, Tim has all that information.
You'll see all that on January 2nd.
Yeah,
Okay.
he has all that information. The only thing that I know that we don't have, and so I would personally like to make this recommendation, and that is that we keep Charlie on our committee. He's very important to us and works really hard with us.
Fantastic. Questions, comments? Commissioners?
Would you buy them from us? Okay, you can have, take them home with you.
Thank you. It sounds like there's gonna be a lot more to come.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you.
You do. Discussion items, 5A, December 26th meeting.
I've had conversations with a couple of commissioners about the possibility of not having a meeting next week, the day after Christmas. So just a few things. First of all, this material for tonight is set up. If you wanted to act on it, there are draft resolutions attached to everything. We would need to fill in some blanks, but we'll deal with that when we get there for conversation. You would take a vote of the board to cancel that meeting, but then the very next thing we would need to do is pass a motion to allow the Claims and Accounts Committee to deal with the claims for the second round here in December, and that way all the bills will be timely as well. If there were any claims in there that the committee questioned or otherwise didn't feel they wanted to approve, they could be pulled and put on the January agenda for the full board to consider then. But most of them, I think you're going to find are routine and probably you won't have much in the way of questions. Claims and Accounts Committee this quarter is Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Scott. Then if we'll get to some of these issues, for instance, like the animal control officer job description, that does not need to be acted on tonight. It's something that we would have discussed just as a committee of the whole, but if you concurred with everything that there'd be nothing wrong with approving it.
Is there anything that has to be acted on tonight?
The boiler project, if we're going to go anything with the ARPA commitment, will have to be acted on tonight because we've got to have meet that December 31 deadline. The animal shelter agreement, I would like to encourage you strongly to consider that tonight because I would very much like that to be in place on January 1 so that that whole program can get going. But that would mean passing the budget first, which we'll get to that in order tonight. And then the last one, the marijuana operation and oversight grant. We've done these every year I've been here. It's actually through the health department, very routine grant, but they need to have that filed by the end of the year as well.
What are you guys' thoughts on a December 26th meeting? Commissioner Wiltie?
I mean, it's the day after Christmas. I was talking with Tim yesterday about it. Kind of was just a little disappointed that we weren't more proactive about this. Cause I had to change some pretty major things in my life in order to be there for the meeting. And I guess it's my fault that I wasn't educated enough to know that I can just try to call to cancel a meeting. So I've learned from that moving forward. you know, if we can deal with the things that need to be dealt with tonight. I do think with it being the 26th, and Christmas is an important time to be with family. I think it would be wise if we can deal with everything that needs to be dealt with tonight. I'd be okay with, canceling the meeting.
Commissioner Scott?
I asked a few weeks ago, you guys were adamant that we were gonna have a meeting. I don't care if you want to or not, doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't matter to me neither. I brought it up with conversation over the week with Tim, to see if there was any items that definitely needed to be addressed. I am in town. I just thought maybe it would give people extra time. I don't know if anybody actually tried canceling the meeting. I think we left it open for discussion for tonight. I guess maybe I misunderstood. It doesn't matter to me. I can be here, but I thought, especially for people who travel, stay late at night, I thought it would be nice if there's nothing urgent, but I wanted to discuss it. So Commissioner Mayhew,
Matter to me either way.
Commissioner Simmons,
No, I just assume this be the last meeting.
so. Tim, thoughts?
But would, typically require a motion.
I'll make that
to do
motion.
What's the working days for the county next week? Just off.
Monday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, just off Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Thursday, Friday?
Right,
So then the county is open on Thursday.
yes.
We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Simmons. Does anybody want to support it?
Sure, why not?
Support from Commissioner Mayhew. Any further discussion about the December 26th meeting?
There.
What's your motion?
Do not have a meeting on December 26th.
Would you support it?
Yes.
I
Okay.
made the motion.
Any further discussion? Everybody understand the motion?
Sure, why not?
Roll call vote.
Roger Mayhew, Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yeah,
Craig Scott,
Sure, why not?
Jenny David.
Yeah.
you guys are getting kind of,
So there, that's,
Okay, so on its heels, you would need to move to allow the Claims and Accounts Committee to approve the claims on your behalf as a board.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? We better do a roll call vote on that one too.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yep.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
What's the next motion, Tim? We're good to go on to the animal control program?
Good to go on, yeah.
Okay, 5B, Animal Control Program, fiscal year 2025 Animal Control Fund Budget. Do you guys want to come on up? Come on, just in
No.
case anybody's got any questions. That way everybody can hear you. Thanks for coming, guys. Tim, do you want to take the floor on this?
Sure. This first motion is preliminary to anything else. Before you can spend any money out of a fund, you've got to have a budget first. And so this motion would establish the animal control millage budget. And it would be following all the same rules that are in the appropriation resolution that was passed in September. So all the rules about hiring people and grants and everything else that apply across the board would also apply to this budget. There is one set of blanks we'll need to fill in. It's highlighted in yellow on the resolution. Because this is a new position that we have in the budget, we would need to establish the part-time animal control officer position and the compensation rate. This budget draft that you have in front of you assumes a 20-hour work week or 1,040 hours a year at $25 an hour. And that's only in there because that's a number that was discussed at a previous meeting. There is worksheet that I put together if you were to scroll over to the animal control, well, actually it's the very next one. So it's a sample compensation table on it. And that top number, the $25 an hour, 20-hour a week, that's the 26,000 figure that you see. These other numbers are consistent with what we pay sheriff deputies on the road right now. They start at $20 an hour. After 1 year, they're at 21. After 2 years, 22.50, 3 years, 24, and so on. And you can see what the various numbers are that would go with that. So for instance, just taking that bottom number, for example, if we wanted that position to be at 25 hours per week, that's 1,300 annual hours. at $20 an hour, that would be $26,000. So that would be one way to not even have to mess with what's been proposed here, because it's the same number as 20 hours at $25 an hour. Now, of course, there would be some rippling in there. The payroll tax would increase or decrease depending on whatever number is chosen. The rest of these numbers are generally consistent with what we've experienced over the last few years for animal control. And Scott was working, I think, 25 hours per week. But some obviously money for expenses for the vehicle, gas, oil, any kind of repair it might need, office equipment, and so on. A couple of noteworthy lines in here. The first one concerns the contract for animal care at $180,000. And we'll talk about that more when we get to the contract discussion next. Another one that is new is one that's called veterinary services. It's 2 lines down from that, and a budgeted $10,000. I don't think we would need $10,000, but the reason that's in here is this. The animal shelter is not a veterinarian, so any seriously ill or injured animal brought to the shelter, they can't necessarily accept without taking on tremendous liability. But our animal control officer could take that animal to a veterinarian for determination whether or not the animal can be saved. And if not, they can do the euthanizing right there at the veterinarian's office. All of that obviously costs some money. This is, I think, a high number, but until we get some time under our belt on that type of process, we're not really going to know. But my gut feeling is that that's a fairly high number. Now, that's not to be confused with the routine animal care that would take care or be done at the animal shelter itself. That would be built into the contract. This is an animal that maybe is hit by a car or been injured out somewhere, or is just picked up and is very sick. That gives the animal control officer an outlet, someplace to take that animal for final determination. Everything else in here is relatively consistent with what we've seen in the past. The the revenue that you see on the top, you've got the millage estimate, and then the dog license revenue that we've seen in the general fund over the years and what that estimate is. This looks like a very tight budget. It's intentionally presented that way, but I do believe by the time the year is out, numbers like that veterinary services number won't be as high as budgeted, will provide us with some cushion. This would require the budget to be managed closely, just like any other budget. But I'm very confident in terms of the numbers that this is a very workable one. And of course, if there are unusual things that happen throughout the year, we do our quarterly adjustments. We can address those at that time. So the only open question is the number of hours and the hourly rate for the animal control officer position. This resolution does amend the person or the position allocation list to include the part-time position. Just need to fill in these numbers to complete that document as well.
Comment.
Go ahead.
I've been thinking about this while. I envision, I know Scott, he did a great job for us. He was at 25 hours a week. So I think the demand is there for 25 hours. So I'd like to see the position stay at 25 hours a week. And I think it would be right to start. I mean, we have a starting deputy, which we just have a starting deputy, I believe, today. And that deputy is going to start at that 1-year line at $20 and some cents an hour. I think that's what we should follow. That's where I'm at.
We figured it, Commissioner Scott, do you have anything before I'm sorry?
Go ahead, go ahead.
We figured it at 20 hours is what we figured it at, correct?
We figured 20 hours at 25 an hour.
Yeah.
This would be reversing 20 at.
Scott's been how long without, how long Scott been gone?
Well, at least 6 months.
So we've been 4 to 6 months, we'll say, without an officer at all. I'm gonna go with 20 hours and $25 an hour. And the reason I say $25 an hour, because there's no benefits here.
Right.
This is a very part-time position. Basically, all they get to function is equipment and a hourly pay, correct?
Right now, they are eligible under MERS to contribute to that. So there is that, and you see that line in the budget as well. But there are, if the individual wanted to sign on for the dental and vision coverage, they could do that through payroll deduction. There would be no additional expense to the county for that, but otherwise there's no other benefit.
That would come from, they would have to pay for that.
Right.
I mean, obviously, we want to get a person in this position and try to keep them And I think then if there is a need, which obviously we know that there is, but if there's more of a need, they can come to us and plead their case. I'm at 2025. Since that's what we talked about, that's what we agreed upon.
That's
We
what
never agreed upon $25 an hour.
Well, when we were talking about the millage and what to ask for, that's the figure that was given to us. That's the figure that we talked about. Was it cut in was it set in stone? No, but that's how we figured out what we were going to ask for. When we figured out the millage. So that's what I'm, go ahead.
are you saying $25 an hour for 20 hours?
Mhm.
Okay, I just wanna make sure I got the 20 and 25 in the right place.
Right, Commissioner Wiltie said 25 hours and 20 or $21. Commissioner Mayhew?
I just got one question. If somebody has a part-time job here, and they get another part-time job, it ain't a full-time, it's two part-times.
The answer is it depends on the number of total hours. Once we breach the 29-hour mark, now we're responsible for full-time benefits. So if they end up working 30 hours, let's say they work 20 hours as animal control officer, 5 hours as ORV, another 5 as Marine, and those begin to overlap, we have an issue.
That's where I'm at.
We had that previously
That's awesome.
with the animal control was a corrections officer as well. I believe when I first started, there was an overlap there or something.
Yeah, that's before I got here, but I understood it was, it needed to end, and it did.
It did, but it did. Would that be a possibility with, if they fill that position, because, of whom they were talking about previously, can they do that without board, how would that happen?
No, they can't do it without board approval. And the rules under FLSA are very clear. Now, whether or not this department understands that's another matter, but it's something that we would have to watch very closely. If we did get a situation where it looked like we were gonna have a problem, I might be right back here saying we need to pull the plug on something.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, our grant operated programs are $16 an hour. Scott's top pay when he left was what, just shy of 16,
Just shy of 15.
15, something like that, I think. I can't agree with taking to the top deputy pay. This isn't the same job. I don't know why even the charts that bottomed out at 20. I'd be around 18 myself. You gotta have some type of a range kind of thing. I think you want them out there as much as you possibly can. That was the issue with Scott. He needed to be out there as much as he possibly could. I was hoping the sheriff's office be here. I want to make sure all the equipment's there. Because if we got to turn around and buy a whole bunch of new equipment, that's gonna blow the heck out of this budget. It shouldn't have been any place, but I'd have to ask if we got everything.
That's fair.
So I'm gonna be at the $18 mark in 25 hours. That's about where I'm gonna be.
And Commissioner Wiltie, you were at 25?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
25 hours, $20 an hour.
What rate are you looking at on the scale?
Didn't found it, but
Right here, it's on the second,
that guy was making 16.
Mhm.
And
and we lost them.
the people we got in our offices ain't getting a raise. If he'd still have a job, he'd still be at 16.
So what rate?
Yes, I don't see 16, so.
We got Commissioner Scott, who's got 18
Well-
and 25, and Commissioner Wiltie, who's got 20 and 25.
Well, I'd go lower. I would. Because I'll tell you what, he's gonna take this truck home. The sheriff's gonna allow him to take the truck home. It's not like he's gonna, wherever he lives, has to drive to work and pick up the truck. On his work, every other deputy takes a car home.
Okay.
Scott took it home.
I'm listening, I didn't know
Scott
that.
took the truck home. because we responded right out of his house. I mean, he
I'm
didn't,
just saying that
No.
if we don't give them a raise,
yeah, no, there's a level of expertise here. He has to go to a school. But I can't do it as if he's a deputy because it's a different job. Different, still a
Commissioner,
little different risk level.
Commissioner Simmons?
Well, this is a different job, and he's kind of out there on his own, and I make this comment.
Yeah.
And another thought, because the animal control used to be under the commissioners, the last time I was commissioner. And with what's going on with the sheriff's department, I think it'd be best that the animal control officer work for the commissioners, with Mr. Delahanty being his person he reports to, and not the sheriff, because I don't want this animal control officer doing deputy jobs all the time, and then we don't have animal control. I mean, he's already proven how he handles his business. I would hate to ruin it for the county with giving him this also. He can't handle what he's got now. So I would like to see like it was before, and it worked well. When animal control officer worked for the commissioners. And it was anyways, when things would go wrong with animal control, how he'd always say, well, he works for the commissioners, he doesn't work for me. So, and it is written that the animal control does work for the commissioners.
Well, the reason why it went under the commissioners is because the other sheriff had animal control. But we wouldn't allow him to have a corrections officer work 40 hours corrections and 20 hours in a dog catcher position. And take no overtime. So when we put a stop to that, he threw up his hands and says, hey, I don't want nothing to do with it. Took the letters off the truck, took the radio out of it, wouldn't even allow a radio in it. We had to get a radio from emergency management. And then, well, when Sheriff Gilbert took over, he said he'd take on the animal control. That's fine with me. But
It seemed to work. Were you done? It seemed to work pretty well with Scott over at the sheriff's office. I mean, there wasn't any argument or problems, was there?
I wasn't made aware of any.
I guess I understand Commissioner Simmons' concerns 100%. I guess how close are we able to watch that? Because I know the individual that they were talking about putting in this position works already some other positions for the county, and it is something that we could run into trouble with.
Well, I mean, I'll lay it out to you the way the state constitution sets it up. If this is under the sheriff's office, the sheriff has all administrative responsibility. That includes hours of work. It includes work assignments, everything. You would have no control over any of that. Under Commissioner Simmons' proposal, you would have 100% control over that.
So comments, guys, Commissioner Wiltie.
Yeah, so as much as I'm very disappointed with the current actions of the sheriff and sheriff department and the direction they've managed the jail transition, I do look back at the 2 years I've been here, and while Scott was here, I heard nothing but good things. I never heard of any issues with the sheriff, pulling Scott off not to do his job. Again, as disappointed as I am, still got to try to keep some faith here, and I would like to see that stay with the sheriff department. And then in regards to Commissioner Mayhew's comment about pay raises, I think if we could do this analysis of surrounding areas. I believe that Scott was probably, and I'm assuming this, but I'm pretty confident on this, that he was pretty underpaid. So if we did an analysis of what, that position is paid in our surrounding counties, I would imagine it's probably closer to that $20 mark. I'm just assuming that. I'm just going off of how I feel. So I really wouldn't say this is a pay increase. And this also is a new individual, and, this is some different parameters. But I'm trying to keep some faith, and I would like to see it stay with the sheriff department.
Commissioner Scott, do you want the commissioners to take?
I'd rather see it under the sheriff's office. That's where it should be. you know, I think there's enough work out there, probably. The only thing we lost when it went under the sheriff this last time was we were getting great monthly reports and we didn't get them anymore. But that's near the here and there. No, I go along with Roger. I mean, I mean, quite a bit more.
What's quite a bit more?
Well, it's 20. I'm trying to find someplace in between, and that 18 is right about in between.
Commissioner Mayhew, do you want to see it with the sheriff's office or do you want to see it under the commissioners?
I don't know. I don't know what it was like before. All I know is when Scott was there.
Correct.
But when it was the commissioners, I was not here, so I have nothing to go by there.
But, no, but yes, where would you like to see it? I don't think there was any issues when it was underneath the commissioners neither, but there seemed to be, I mean, obviously the sheriff's office needs the animal control individual from time to time, and there seemed to be better communication with them. Probably a little less with us, but I don't.
Right. I mean, we're here once a week and the sheriff's here
Every day.
7 days a week.
Again, I understand, we can change this at any point in time if needed, correct?
Yeah, I'm not gonna suggest it would necessarily be an easy thing to do, but certainly, easier time to transition to a different model would be when we do a new budget. So, you know, that's what 9 months off is all.
Yeah, I 100% see, and I don't want to disregard Commissioner Simmons' opinion on this, but I think that we need to, at this time, let the sheriff's office continue to have control over the animal program. And the reason I was so high with the amount is, again, it's a part-time position. There's no benefits. There's nothing to this position. We're just trying to get a good person in there, have a good rapport and keep them in this position versus having to find a new person really frequently. Finding somebody part-time with no benefits with very low pay could be very difficult. So I think we agree at this point in time of keeping it with the sheriff's office. A pay, do you need that tonight, Tim?
We need the budget approved. If we're gonna go to any kind of expenditure, which would be our next item on the agenda, would be the animal shelter agreement. We would need to have the budget approved first.
So we seem to have 18 and 20 on the table, I guess. Which one do you guys want? Commissioner Simmons?
I want 2250.
Well,
We have right now, we have two people that agree on 18 and we have 18 and we have 20.
Comment.
So, yes,
I
Commissioner
want
Wiltie.
2250.
Hold on, Commissioner Simmons wasn't done. Hold on, Commissioner Wiltie. Were you done, Commissioner Simmons?
I guess I am now.
Commissioner Wiltie?
But it's a budget if we stayed at $20 per hour, which I think is a good rate for start off, we could get 25 hours of service. That's what we had before, and I would like to see the 25 hours at start off pay at $20 an hour.
Commissioner Scott?
I'm fine with just approving this animal control budget, the budget they have. And that would set us at 26,000 for an annual wage. We can come back in a couple of weeks and haggle out the dollar amount
Yeah, 26,000 for a year.
in hours. If we pass this budget, it says we're going up to that. We're capping it at 26.
I have a question.
How many hours and how much you pay to get to that point? That's another discussion.
Tim, is that accurate?
You could do that. We'd have to amend the first, be it further resolved, and we would say that the fiscal year 2025 position allocation list is hereby amended to include one regular part-time animal control officer position, period. And drop the rest of that, if you wanted to come back and revisit it.
In the meantime, could you do a analysis of surrounding counties to see information related to the animal control, what they make, how many hours they work?
Sure.
I would like to see the 20 hours, and the reason being is because we've been 6 months without. Now, wintertime, I would think, but again, I don't know information as far as if they're busier in the winter, slower in the winter. Scott seemed to be slower in the winter, and we bumped up his hours, if I remember correctly, during the summer.
Right.
So I don't remember how much, but that's what we had done. But Commissioner Wiltie?
Well, the reason I was asking the question is, so the job is posted. I would imagine, I don't know what the end date is, but I'd imagine there's gonna need to be some direction on what pay scale it is for these people when
Let me look at the posting and
wanting to interview for the job.
We reconvene in 2 weeks. Right,
When?
we reconvene in 2 weeks.
All right, so he's
Hold
written
on, hold on.
saying the hourly rate will be negotiable upon conditional offer of employment. So they've not committed to any number yet. So I think you'd be clean to,
And that was just posted this week, correct?
right, yeah.
So Commissioner Scott?
Well, we didn't make a motion to even start this discussion here, right?
What do you mean?
We just started discussing it.
Yeah, there's no motion on the table right now.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion then to pass.
You said there's not.
I'll make a motion then to pass the animal control budget with the exception of hours and rate for an officer.
I'll support that.
Now, if you want to have more discussion, that's fine. I've made my point.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, my concerns are, not so much concerns, but is that $180,000, I mean, you know, so you divide by 12, we're looking at $15,000 a month. And I had asked Tim earlier today on that. I know the purpose of the millage, but from the past, the last 2 years I've been here, the amount of money that we've paid to the shelter per month is a small fraction of that. And my concerns is we're paying the shelter $15,000 a month, and we'll have issues like we have right now where we're full, and we have nowhere to take the dogs, and we're paying $15,000 a month. And I just kind of want to have a little conversation on that.
Actually, that would come up in the next item on the agenda right
I
now.
thought that was part of the.
It's, there's a budgeted number in there, but that budget does not commit you. Okay, other than to say you set aside that amount.
Gotcha.
So then the next conversation, we will dive into that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Commissioner Mayhew?
What do you want?
I don't know. There's a motion with support on the table to approve the fiscal year 2025 animal control millage budget.
Yeah.
Without the numbers being put in there, so we will revisit this.
Yeah.
And then the next conversation is related to the animal shelter. Correct, Tim?
Yes,
Commissioner
So
Simmons?
this motion we're working on has nothing to do with the animal shelter right now, is that correct?
right. Other than that, there's a line included in the budget. That's it. So the next conversation, we'll dive into the contract.
So the rate that you're gonna pay the animal shelter is not gonna be set.
Hold on,
There's a ceiling set.
let Tim answer the question.
Yeah, well, what Commissioner Scott just said, that sets the ceiling at this, you know, you adopt the budget, you're not gonna approve a contract for more than what's there. But it's not committing you to any number being lower than that. So if you were to negotiate a contract for $5,000, for instance, you could do that. Obviously, there'd be a surplus then in the budget, but you could do that. So right now, you're not nailing that down. That conversation comes in the next item on the agenda.
Anything further, Commissioner Simmons?
So we're just talking the no more than 180.
That's, in effect, that's what would happen with this resolution,
Then afterwards, we're gonna talk about how much we are gonna do,
right?
okay?
Commissioner Scott?
Well, if you want to raise that limit,
No,
okay, then we have to take off of something else because there's only so much money.
I already know that.
Yeah, I know you do. Well, I'm just saying out loud to the public.
I
They-
understand.
They know that. The pie's only so big and how many times we cut it.
Commissioner Wiltie?
No,
Any other discussion?
Hmm.
Roll call vote.
Brenda Simmons.
Yep.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
yes.
Animal shelter agreement. Tim?
You've got that document in front of you, and thank you for your patience. This agreement is result of a conversation I had with the Ray representatives and some back and forth on tweaking to make sure that it said what we thought it said. The changes that that are proposed are in red. I'll just quickly walk through them, not many. The first one Obviously, there's still a blank on when we started, but the contract will run through December 31st of 2026. So that's literally 2 full calendar years. This millage that we have will run out in 2026. So presumably on the November ballot or the August ballot in 2026, that's when you would ask for renewal. But this would take us through, given the way that we're starting the contract and the way the millage falls, December 31, 26 is a doable date. There is a statement on that second paragraph. Our prior agreements only spoke about the county terminating the agreement. So you'll see a correction in here that says the county or contractor may terminate the agreement at any time with or without cause upon 30 days written notice. So we would each notify one another, and there are statements in here about prorating the amounts that might be owed depending on a termination date. On page 2, a new item E, and this was a grave concern, understandably, to the shelter, is that they would reserve the right to reject any terminally ill or injured animals. So the example that I'll give you, if an animal or a dog is hit by a car, we don't want the animal control officer taking that animal to the shelter because they are not a veterinarian. There's not much they can do. They would just simply have to turn it around and take to a veterinarian. And that's where that line about the medical care comes into play. There are funds set aside for the animal control officer to take that animal to a veterinarian for final determination, but it has that trained set of eyes on that animal and not, a layperson or a volunteer who may or may not have any experience. The compensation for this is proposed at $180,000, $15,000 a month. We are the primary client of Ray Shelter, and this is roughly their annual budget to take care of animals that are brought in. Now, just for comparison, I did talk to Commissioner Wilsey earlier today and said I would pull some other counties to find out what they have built. And now this is not the contract, but this is what they do for animal control. Chippewa County operates on a millage, and they actually operate their own shelter. Their budget for 2023 was $318,606. Wexford County also operates with a millage, and they also operate their own shelter, $307,642. Roscommon County just renewed their animal shelter millage, and they actually had 2 millages dealing with animals. But the one most recent that was approved showed up in their audit for fiscal 2023 at $376,908 that was collected. So those are 3 counties with millages. A neighbor to the south, Gladwin County, had reported in their audit $138,189 is their total spend for last year. Another county I was able to grab quickly was Oceana County at $173,116. Don't know what those 2 counties do or if they actually operate their own shelters. The other 3 do. I think this is a pretty good comparison to what we would be facing if we were to build our own shelter and have to run it. We're probably going to be spending about $100,000 more than what we have brought in on our millage. But I think those are pretty decent comparisons. These are just 5 at random. The 3 I knew had millages, so I went to them. I haven't dove in to try to look at all 83 counties and where they stand, but I think this is a pretty good example or sample of counties. Tells me that we're in the ballpark here. Whether we're a little higher or a little low, I couldn't say for sure, but I'm confident based on my conversations with Ray Shelter representatives that this is a workable number. And you might recall my saying before the millage was first proposed that $7,500 that we had budgeted or contracted with in past years. I kid you not, woefully inadequate, and it was based on a number of dogs even. This is, I think, a little more comprehensive, I think a little more realistic in terms of the cost of running an operation like this with the amount of dogs that we bring in. Next item B, proposing to take out, it talks about dogs and cats brought in by third parties. We're not really a part of that transaction if it's a third party. We're only concerned about what our animal control officers bring, and any individual private surrenders are not part of that equation. Item C, there's an amendment here. On the chance that an animal is held for civil or criminal litigation purposes, the court will put a hold on that animal. Right now, the contract says the county is responsible for 4 days. So we bring a dog in, we're responsible for 4 days. After that, the race shelter is free to adopt that animal out or do what they do. Maybe work with a rescue group or whatever. I mean, they're free to do that. When we get into a court situation, and I've seen this happen with when there are a number of animals confiscated, you hear about puppy mills now and then. Sometimes we have people who have way more animals than they can care for, and they're confiscated. And maybe there's a criminal activity or court involvement. The court can put a hold on those animals, and that can start to get expensive. In this case, to cover those expenses, if we do have a court hold, that would be $100 a day charge. Now, it sounds like a lot, but when we do the math and figure out how much it takes to care for that animal, it's, I believe a reasonable number. We don't have this happen very often, but at the same time, we don't want the race shelter to be held responsible for holding animals indefinitely while a court proceeding works itself through. These monies can be recovered if there is court-ordered restitution. This can be part of the restitution. So whomever committed whatever act, the court can say, and as part of your sentence, you will reimburse the county for the fees that had to be paid to hold these animals. What I've seen happen in those cases, once the defendant realizes what kind of costs they're up against, the court will give them the opportunity to surrender those animals so we don't have a long delay. And they typically, once they see what kind of costs they're looking at, will typically surrender those animals, and then the regular rules apply. So that's sort of a safety valve for everybody concerned. The only other change in here, aside from a few spelling issues that we found, is the invoicing. And what we're asking the race shelter to do is provide an itemized invoice every month to the county. This is pretty common. The one that comes to mind right away was our medical examiner. We receive a quarterly invoice from them. Their annual amount is broken up into 4 equal payments. In this case, it'll be 12 equal payments. And most of the invoices we see, that will be the only item listed. But if we do get one of those court cases, then those items will also be listed. So you'll always know what it is that we're paying. But most often you're going to see, in fact, I'd say probably 99.9% of the invoices will just have that one line, that one charge on there. If something else comes up that we want to be involved in and there's an expense to it, well, you'll see it. It will be called right out. Those are the only changes to the contract that we already had. All the other stipulations are in place. And we have representatives from the race shelter here as well, if you have any questions for them.
You guys have anything to add to this? Did you guys have a discussion over the last week to come up with this amount of 180,000? How did you come up with it?
We looked at their budget for the year,
So you based it on their budget?
based it on their budget. And they're the ones who've experienced all of the, the personnel fees, the animal care fees, the keeping the building heated and lit, everything that goes with that.
Repairs.
Commissioners, Commissioner Wiltie?
Yeah, I've got a number of questions and concerns. I push this. I'm an animal lover. I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate you guys being here tonight. It's just, this is a little bit different for me the short time that I've been here because, like, for example, a transit millage. The county residents are, if they would have passed, they're paying for a millage for the transit, for operating costs, for possibly costs for improvements. Well, this is different. We have our constituents paying for animal control plus the shelter. We don't own the shelter, which I understand owning the shelter could come with a lot of costs. But yet also what I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around is, so Tim got with you guys and you guys basically have a budget, which it sounds like what we're asking for, or if we would approve this, is we're pretty much your 100% revenue line. And I guess I was confused by that. I thought you guys had other means of revenue. And if you didn't, I guess I don't understand how you guys were able to operate, just for example, these last couple years, if the county was your main revenue stream, yet we didn't even give you guys, I mean, it wasn't even $10,000 in 2024. How did you guys stay open? And then second off, the part that I'm still trying to really grasp on is, so you guys are a private entity. I know you're a 501c3, but you're a private entity. So we have taxpayers paying for the millage that you guys are gonna be, I'd imagine, spending money on some improvements. You said that you guys need some improvements to the building and what have you. So now our county taxpayers are paying for improvements to a building that they don't own, that a private entity owns. And I'm having a hard time grasping that.
You got the floor? Anything to add to that? Hold on, Commissioner Simmons. Go ahead.
I don't know what to say to that. I didn't come, so our board president came up with all these numbers. I did not. So I don't know. I can't answer that.
Our main revenue stream was donations. Begging.
Yeah,
That can-
begging,
or
pretty much.
donations.
That's how we
That's
stay
how we
open.
survive.
So, excuse me, if we had a pie chart, then actually the county wouldn't be the number one revenue stream for 2024. Outside donations were.
For revenue, yeah. But for animals, well, dogs in the shelter, the county fills us up. Cats don't come in from the county very often, but we're full on county dogs. And we're not getting the money to take care of those county dogs from the county. So we're begging and fundraising and, I mean, we can get grants. Donations.
Are you guys full right now still? 'Cause last week, 2 weeks ago, you were here?
I mean, technically, we're always full. We try to keep a couple open kennels for the county at all times. But we've never refused a dog from the county. Yeah, we were full. The issue was we weren't getting compensated for the dogs they were bringing in.
But you have refused recently.
Nope, never
I
refused a
thought
dog. from the
locks
county.
were changed. What was those email correspondences that you were no longer taking dogs?
That actually came from Paul.
It did from our undersheriff.
That was 3 weeks ago or so?
Mhm.
It said locks have been changed and that you guys are no longer taking.
Yep, that's what it said, but
Okay, but
still
you-
never refused a dog from the county. They've never called and said, I have a dog, and I've refused it.
We've taken 3 dogs since from the county.
Right, so we have 3 more on top of the 2 that we weren't
We didn't get
compensated for.
Commissioner Scott, do you have something?
Yeah, Charlie, EMS is not owned by the county. And we pay a millage for 911 is not owned by the county. It's an authority, all their own. The libraries are not owned by the county. And we pay millages for that. The one thing like I had told the libraries when the ticket revenue was because they would get ticket revenue. And when we quit putting police cars on the freeway, their funding dropped dramatically. And I told them, this is, you shouldn't have anticipated that. Because that it's not our responsibility to write tickets to make sure you got funding. You should have kept up your fundraising all along. Now, I just went past their place yesterday. You guys still got those big bags of cans in the cage out there. You've collected those
yeah,
for years now. You know, during COVID, you had a semi-trailer there that was just chock full and bags all around it. So you've been constantly trying to raise some money.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, keep doing raffles, do dinners, do Kool-Aid stand. You know, I would say keep doing that. Because like the administrator says, this millage will run out in 2 years. If the voters get finicky again and vote it down, you'll be right back in the same boat. You know, but to say that we're funding a private organization, a 501, we do it all the time. The county board used to give money to the fair back years ago. They didn't own the fairgrounds, never did. We don't own EMS. What would happen if you folded up? The money wouldn't come back to the general fund.
Commissioner Simmons.
Yeah. But there's a lot to this, running, an animal shelter. It's not just the dog comes in and you feed the dog and that's all there is to it. There's a lot more behind it. In fact, a few years ago, they were at the point that they may have had to close, but somebody came up and donated a lot of money so they could stay open. If that donation would have been made, they'd have been closed because they didn't have the money to make the repairs. that's how limited they are with funding right now. And it takes a lot more to take care of these animals. And take care of vet bills that goes down there, cause this vet stuff that's in here is animals that he cannot take to the shelter because they're injured so badly, he just has to take them to a vet right away. And I've seen the invoices when I do claims, I see the invoices from the animal control officer, he took them to Saginaw, took them wherever and had them euthanized, and we pay that invoice. So that's been going on all along. It's not anything new. But, I think we're lucky to have this animal shelter, that people really care about these animals. It's small town USA. It's not like Saginaw or Flint or Detroit. And having this much money was $180,000. That's not a lot of money to run an animal shelter. I mean, what is up in Roscommon is $300 and some thousand. So I think we're still getting a real deal here. That's just my outlook on how I see it. Because we had to build one and we had to staff it. And we had to make sure all the veterinarian stuff was done. And all the police stuff is done because they got it, and all the quarantines got to be done. You'd say it'd probably be $300 and some thousand we'd be spending also. Plus you have to build the building.
Tim, what's mandatory for the county? Obviously, animal control officer is not, because we did not have one for the last 4 to 6 months. The constituents voted to reinitiate this. What is mandatory for the county to have to maintain if an animal control officer picks up an animal? What do we have to do statutory wise?
Well, statutory, we don't even have to pick them up. The whole program is discretionary. Now, in this case, part of why we go for millages is that it is discretionary. Now it's up to the residents or the taxpayer to determine whether or not they want to pay. So the only mandate you have right now is the millage itself. And of course, that language is pretty general. It's for animal control services, animal sheltering, and so forth. So you're actually creating what your so-called mandate would be. There is no statute that requires that we have animal control of any kind.
I understand both your guys' perspectives. The constituents did vote this in. So obviously it is something that they want. We have to have a place to take them. $180,000 is, I think, a little steep. I don't think we should be all of their budget. I understand in this budget that you have proposed in front of us is pretty tight. There's absolutely zero money to spare. I personally would like to see that $180,000 decreased just a touch a bit, so that there is a little cushion there. If one line doesn't match up well or something happens, we have some funds left for something somewhere versus trying to scramble some other place for them. I don't have a number, at say 150 versus 180. Starting that high. I understand the perspective. I do. But again, to have some cushion there, versus spending every penny of this millage, which is primarily what this budget is doing. We can't go and spend this money someplace else. I mean, obviously it's got to be utilized in the correct places. So yes, Commissioner Simmons.
I understand what you're saying. It sounds like it's a lot of money. But Tim did this budget. I talked with Tim because I was asking some questions about the budget. And this budget is filled out. These line items are necessary, but some of these line items may never be used. And possibly will not. So you can and we do this with every budget we have.
It's a work in progress.
And we move those line items in the same, like animal control, animal shelter services. You can move those line items around. But I wouldn't bring it down any further. I would not.
Go ahead.
So to go along with what Commissioner Simmons said, and yeah, we can adjust and move throughout the season. And I want you guys to understand, I understand the constituents have voted, they want this, I want this. I just want to make sure that we're doing this as right as we possibly can. I would also agree with Commissioner David where maybe that 150 mark, but again, we can move it each month. You guys are going to be submitting, what you guys have, your costs and where we're at, and then we can look at it because this is also new for us. So I am also in agreement with Commissioner David on that. So I have one more question. So we obviously know whether it not be $15,000 a month or maybe a little less, it's still going to be a a large chunk of money that you guys haven't had before, and I understand you guys need more money, and you have been underpaid by us, I understand that. So what happens next month? We come to, we'll be at agreement, you know, and you're gonna be getting this large chunk of money now each month from us. And you're saying that the dogs are always full, and I'm still a little confused why undersheriff told us that locks were changed and you're not accepting dogs. But say we're, you know, we're spending $10,000-12,000 a month with you guys and you're full. Are you gonna take our dogs? Because another thing we gotta think about is, so we don't know who this new animal control officer is. It could be someone who absolutely loves their job, they're extremely aggressive, and they're out there picking up a lot of dogs. So we know there's a need for it. So now we have this huge, you know, influx of dogs now coming. You guys are getting all this money from us, but you guys made it clear that you're full and your landscape can't get any bigger. So what's gonna happen then?
When I spoke to Paul, he said there was going to be something in play about where the influx of dogs, if we were full, where they were going to go. I don't know anything about that. I haven't spoken to him since we changed the locks. But as I said, the locks weren't changed because, yes, we were full. But you know, we do adoptions every day. We do return to owners. So just because these dogs are coming in doesn't mean they're stuck there waiting for adoption. So the amount of dogs and the dogs fluctuates daily. But I can't answer that. I don't know about what we're gonna do with the if we get 15 dogs at once, that's all of our kennels. You know, there's a hoarding case or an abuse case, something like that. They're obviously going to have to be dispersed elsewhere.
But we can't predict an emergency. I mean.
No, it
cannot-
doesn't happen often, you know, even when they bring in dogs, I figure it out, I move things around. I don't know what the circumstances are gonna be, so I can't say what we're gonna do.
That's a
Have we
fair,
ever been full where we've refused a dog? No. It just, we weren't being compensated for them, so the locks were changed. Paul was aware of that the whole time, so
that's a fair answer. Commissioner Scott.
Well, you know, last time we talked about this, when they were here, I talked about expansion and I would think, you know, I don't, housing dogs doesn't take up as much room as housing people. So I imagine we get more dogs on a smaller space. So, yeah, and I drive by, you got a lot of yard there. I mean, you got room for expansion. So I would think, you know, if we're gonna give 15,000, you can go to any bank and say, hey, I'm gonna get 24 payments of $15,000 for the next 24 months. Can I borrow some money and we'll add on a room? I mean, it doesn't have to be a big room. I mean, just a partial of this room here probably fit 20 dogs. Cause don't you even stack them, bunk beds like?
no.
Do anybody?
No,
I've been in an
I
animal
know they
shelter.
used to.
I've been in an animal shelter before and the little dogs could sit in a cage up here and the big dog could sit down here.
Where are you
You know,
going, Commissioner Scott?
But what I'm saying is they can add on with this kind of money coming in. They can go to the bank and say, look, I'm gonna get 24 payments of $15,000. I can afford to pay a 24-month loan if you'll lend it to me now so I can build now.
What happens in 2 years if this millage doesn't pass?
Well, don't exceed what you can pay in the next 24 months.
Then you have to maintain a larger facility.
Well,
Barely
yeah,
hanging
you
on
have to
now.
maintain it. Yes.
They're barely hanging on now.
Well, I get it, but okay, fine.
What do they need
I'm done.
tonight?
I'm only a business drawing.
Well, right now, it's just a contract proposal in front of you, and I've heard a number now at 150,000, that would equal 12,500 a month. If you would like me to go back to the Ray board and make that counter proposal on your behalf, I'm happy to do that. I would like to see this in place by January 1. Well, your next meeting is January 2nd, so I think that would be efficient enough. And we would certainly be able to work on, you know, that counter at that point and I'll let you know if it's accepted.
What number are you guys looking at, commissioners? That's what I'm asking right now. What number do you want?
I'm fine with
180,000.
Commissioner Simmons,
180.
Commissioner Mayhew?
The only trouble I got is we give them 180. And we gotta take dogs somewhere else and pay them. We got nothing.
You haven't had to do that so far.
I understand.
But it's also nice to, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I understand.
But
We
what happens if
haven't.
the place
And
burns down?
Go ahead,
he says we ain't gonna have to, but if we do, then we're in the hole. You know what I'm saying?
do.
There's no emergency
I'm
fund.
not. I know you said you haven't.
So what number are you looking at?
Like you said, the 150 wouldn't bug me because then we have it. We still have it for her. But if we happen to have to haul them to Claire or somewhere else, we're not broke. Is the only thing I'm thinking.
Mr. Scott, what number?
I would say they sign the agreements, 180, but they sign the agreement, they take all dogs. If they run out of room, they find a place to put them, not us.
Yep.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we don't make the trip to the next county, they do. But they feel that they can do it within the numbers that are coming in. They've been talking with the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office has said that if there was an officer, he'd be able to return the dogs to the owners, whereas the deputies are not. Past experience tells us that we have not overflowed their capacity. I'm saying that you build a little bit more capacity on for us insurgents of dogs. I'm fine with the budget.
Would that be something that Commissioner Scott, and maybe you can answer this question, I don't know, but Commissioner Scott just stated that if the contract is that whether you guys have room or don't have room, you take the dog and figure it out. And then the financial responsibility is on you guys. That sounds
I'd
kind
like to say yes, but if it's 20 dogs, no.
Commissioner Wiltie, I'm sorry.
I mean, I'd like to see the, 150,000. Again, this is a working floating ship every month, so we start to see how this works. This is new for us. We start, we monitor this closely. We see what these costs are. It does give us some rooms, in case we do have some outside expenses. I think this is way too tight. We need to have some float there, so. I agree with Commissioner Mayhew completely.
Is there anybody like to entertain a motion? We have 3 150s. I agree with the 150 to have some emergency funds available if need be. Would anybody like to entertain that motion?
I'll make the motion for 150.
Commissioner Wiltie? For 150,000,
I'll second it.
support from Commissioner Mayhew. I think we've discussed this, at least then,
Well,
and you
the
can.
only
take it back
thing
to
is
them.
there's a tentative agreement on what's on the table now.
I don't know if that was, the resolution was moved or not. The original contract?
The only resolution and that was voted on is to approve the
But
FY 25.
So there's no motion to
no,
approve.
I mean, have we had rhetoric, had talk with Rhea?
Right, so what I'll do, if I may, because there's a motion on the table now, but what I'll do is, what the motion is reading right now is insert the 150 where it says 180 and the 12.5 per month. Send that to Ray. If they agree to that, everybody can sign off and we're good to go. They can say, no, we need the 180, and then we'll be back here in January to talk about it.
Okay.
We have a motion with support on the table. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Craig Scott,
I'll vote yes.
Jenny David.
Yes,
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes,
Brenda Simmons.
No,
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
thank you.
Final ARPA commitment, 1 boiler project bid opening.
Can I back you up one item?
Oh, what did I do? Oh, shoot, job description. I'm sorry. You wanna take the lead on that?
This is, I don't want to necessarily call it generic, the original one that I put together was, but when Paul put together the posting, it was pretty thorough. And so there's everything that he had in that posting is in this job description now, along with just a couple of other tweaks to it. The bottom line, that when we get down into the required, like the education, it's simply a high school diploma, but then also, as Paul added, the successful completion of the job training. And this is something that's actually written in the statute. That's how we train our animal control officers. They actually go on the job right along with another county so they get some experience behind them. But otherwise, it's I think pretty complete. Gets into roughly how much weight needs to be lifted and capable of working in all climates and so on.
Questions? It looked pretty thorough to me. Commissioner Wiltie,
No, no question.
Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Mayhew, Commissioner Simmons.
What was the question?
Any questions on the animal control officer job description? Any comments? Would someone like to entertain a motion for this?
I'll make the motion, move the resolution.
Support.
Motion from Commissioner Scott, support from Commissioner Wiltie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Final ARPA commitment, boiler project bid opening.
Start, we got one bid.
Come on up, sir.
Gonna ask us any questions?
Probably, hopefully.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
ran for supervisor down in Moffett Township, and I'm glad I lost.
Don't worry about those wires.
You're glad you lost? How come?
How come the other guy got more votes?
How come you're glad?
Because I'm also on the planning commission down there, and I'm on 3 boards, and I attend all kinds of meetings, and
I'm bored too.
it's just a lot. It's this, people don't understand all the stuff that people do on these boards.
We appreciate that
It is
comment.
Absolutely a lot of work.
Thank you. I appreciate that
Period.
comment.
It's a lot of work.
Thanks.
I'm 80 years old. That's another reason why I'm glad I lost.
Go ahead, Tim.
The bid for the project is $349,900. The bid includes, looks like some pretty detailed explanation of what each of the components is, from removal and disposal of the existing boilers to installation of the new energy efficient boilers. It would probably be more efficient if you would indulge, you could tell us what this says rather than me going through and reading it.
By law, I'm not supposed to do that. This is a sealed bid, but so I'm gonna tell you that I will do that if you ask me.
It's open.
It's open.
It's open now.
It's open.
Well, what I'm saying is that on sealed bids, contractors aren't supposed to say anything that could sway the board. Since you asked me, I will tell you, I mean, I will discuss it.
It's the only sealed bid
It's
we
the
have.
only bid, so
I understand. I just,
You have the floor, sir.
thank you.
Explain. $345,000.
It's a lot of money, isn't it?
We've seen more.
We just spent 200 already tonight.
So go ahead. You have the floor.
We bid on a project that you submitted, what you wanted. You asked for high efficiency boilers. That's what we bid. So those boilers, we have to do new gas trains on that. It's all brand new. Venting, everything is new on those boilers. We've gotta bring in a control company. They've gotta be controlled. We've gotta go with outdoor air sensors. There's a whole lot of stuff that's involved in putting in those boilers. We went through and detailed everything on there. That's what you asked for. And there's no shortcut. We didn't bid on this thing the first time around because we didn't have time to get the bids together. Just for example, on that bid, did you know that the bid bond is $17,000?
The what?
Yeah.
What's a bid
The
bond?
bid bond, that means that we have to guarantee
Yeah.
that work will be done.
Oh,
Yeah. Properly. and
If
on time,
we
yeah.
don't do it,
Yeah.
Bob Dack gets out down there and writes a check for the total amount of that money.
Well,
But it's $17,000 we have to include, so that's why part and parcel. Are you familiar with the Davis-Bacon Act?
mhm.
no. Am I?
You're supposed to be.
I-
We have, the Davis-Bacon Act, 1931 says that we have to pay prevailing scale
Oh,
anytime there's federal money involved.
yeah.
You know what prevailing scale is?
Listen, I'm not in the hot seat.
Uh,
Explain your bid.
That's what I'm explaining. Those are the
Right.
things that are in there. The Davis, you guys are talking about $16 an hour for animal control. Davis-Bacon Act says that our journeymen are gonna be paid their benefits, $75 an hour. I have to factor that in.
Ron,
That's fair.
we're not debating.
No, I
We're
understand.
not, we're not debating
What
your
you're gonna
bid.
do,
We
what's
just
your
wanna
job?
know what's included in the
Yeah,
bid.
that's what I'm telling you is in.
Okay.
We've got the bonding is included in that. The wages are included in that. We've got an all new gas train. We've got to meet the specs for the gas, what is that? American Gas?
Well, everything's
Everything's
brought up-
certified.
Everything has to be
Yeah.
brought up to a building code standard.
Right, absolutely.
How just how out of date is our boiler system? We've heard
It's 40
it's
years
bad.
old plus.
Yeah, they say it's bad.
It's old. I mean, they're.
You think it was the original unit?
I don't know if they're original, but they're
old.
They're old.
Yeah.
So
Well,
this
don't
is,
say 40 years is old though. I don't like to hear that.
Yeah,
this is the newest, this is as far as efficiency.
They're
I think it's 97.
97.5% efficient furnaces, boilers. They're Wild McLean boilers. Wild McLean's a 135-year-old company. They've been around a long time.
In my house.
Yeah, they're a good company. I was down at the factory, one of them, and they only got 3 factories around the country.
So what's the time? How long are we down without them?
You probably, we probably can do that by taking one boiler at a time.
Oh,
That's what I think.
We have two?
You got 2 in there and we're putting 2 back in. The ones that are in there, because they're 97% efficient, have a turn down ratio. That means that they don't fire at 1 million BTUs. They can go all the way down to, I think it's like 40,000 BTUs or something like that. So these things go on your load. And we've got a control company that comes in and these things are all monitored up to date. That you've got a Ray Pack on there right now. And I think those are owned by Johnstone or Johnson.
How does,
And they're outdated.
how does this mix with our other air handling system?
It's not, has no effect on, all these do is make hot water. Everything else, all of your air handlers, it's either heating or cooling, your chillers, everything, your control system is already gonna take care of that. All we're doing is controlling the boilers.
They integrate in because all they're doing is making hot water.
Well, I understand. A boiler makes hot water. I get
But
that.
that's all it does. It doesn't change what the air handlers are doing.
Your existing controls will switch it back and forth.
So what's this gonna do for the temperature, the different temperatures in the buildings? In the
Nothing,
building?
nothing, absolutely nothing.
That's a whole.
If we have an issue with the heating and cooling in the and the other parts of the building,
That's a complete.
this'll has nothing to do with it at all.
All we're doing with those boilers is making hot water. You have an antiquated system that's probably, the boilers aren't gonna change all of the stuff out of those air handlers. They won't.
cause that's a huge complaint. Some
I know.
people are freezing with with heaters on and other people are,
We got into that discussion. We went to the bid proposal. Yeah, and what you were asking for was new boilers, had nothing to do with all the other stuff. And it's 2 separate issues. The boilers have absolutely nothing to do with the way this system operates.
So won't heat any differently.
Not gonna eat any different. There's no way that it's gonna make any difference, other than the fact that what you do heat is gonna be less expensive.
The water I
The
heat.
operational cost will be less.
Right.
With these,
Yeah,
per BT.
we're absolutely not gonna change the way that building,
ooh,
Feel.
nothing.
that's not what we
But-
wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Well, but that's not, but that isn't,
Yeah, to some.
that's not what the bid asked for. The bid, yeah, just the
That's
board.
fair.
strictly boilers.
That's fair. We were just asking questions.
I understand, but that was a conversation that we got into the night that we were down there, and I was the one that brought that up, because some of the questions were coming in regarding your air handlers. It's completely, it's way different, separate issues.
Commissioner Wiltie.
Do you have any idea what percentage savings we'll be looking at just in our fuel?
No,
usage
and the
alone?
reason I will tell you is no, because it's almost impossible. I can tell you that you've got something there right now that's probably at best 70-something% maybe, and these are 97%. So you know what your heating bills are, if you're looking at maybe a 20% savings, maybe.
It's pretty
Something like
significant.
that. So that, if you took your annual budget and cut it by 20%. But it's a guess. There's absolutely no way that we can say you're gonna save,
Well,
this thing's gonna have a payback in 10 years.
And to complicate this, I was just reading this morning, consumers wants to up the gas rates by 11%, so it's gonna eat into that savings, but yeah. It's
It's not
11%
just,
on a more
not just the
efficient
gas
boiler.
burn issue, it's also the electrical, the
Mhm.
pumps, motors that operate the boilers are,
And
We,
way more.
we will be in a position when this thing gets done. We've got a control company that we work with. And if you wanna start looking at the motors that are there, you've got some very, very inefficient high horsepower motors that can be taken out, and you can have ECM or very, very low cost, low wattage or low amperage motors put in, and you can start doing that one at a time. But the boilers are not gonna make any difference. You're still, your guys are over here having your meetings over here because of the noise over there, if I understand it correctly.
Correct.
Correct.
The boilers will not make a difference.
No.
Not,
Commissioner Wiltse, did you have anything else?
Does consumers have anything for this? You know, our LED lighting, we might get a check for $15,000+. Are we gonna get anything from consumers?
They indicated when they were here a year or whatever ago that yes, there were some programs that were available. Now, whether they're still available or not, at what rates, I don't know the answer to that, but there was something there.
I just got one more thing. I mean, obviously, we know these boilers are old, like you said, 70% efficient. It needs to get done. We have the money to do it right now, and I think this is also telling us, because when I did that walkthrough with Chris, that was one of the big things. You know, some people are hot in the summer, some are cold. There's, you know, and that's a whole nother monster, and I understand that, but I think that gives us now, you know, we get the boilers in, and then we start looking into, okay, well, let's see what some costs are and replace this pump and replace this pump, and then eventually we'll get where we need, you know, where we need to be. So
And when,
local contractors, I've worked with these guys. They do a great job. You got a problem, they're here. I'd say let's do this.
and windows will help with that as well, like the clerk just said. Commissioner Mayhew?
Yeah. Do you guys do the other half?
we can do the other half, but we do it in conjunction with control companies. We are not a control company, but we work pretty closely with. We did, I'm just using an example. The Alpena Public Safety Facility up at Alpena, the Montmorency County Courthouse, we did the animal shelter up at Sheboygan. And that was kind of sophisticated. They had to have carbon monoxide detectors because of the trucks backing in, that had to turn the exhaust fans on. Bay City Public Schools, so we've done a lot, but a lot of what we do, we don't do the control. Johnstone Supply or Johnson Controls, Honeywell Controls, there's control companies out there that do just that. And we work pretty closely with them.
Mr. Simmons, did you, were you done? I'm sorry.
I guess what I'm saying is, I understand you don't run the controls, but all that stuff's gotta be updated so that their controls will work with the stuff we got.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, our controls will work with what you guys have.
Yeah.
Right, for the furnace, but not for the air handlers, the air conditioning.
Completely different.
Right, I understand. Do you have any idea what it would cost to do?
Not now.
Yeah,
None.
just a different, that's a
Which-
whole other half.
You almost have,
No,
you
I
have to go
understand.
through almost one motor, just like these guys did with the lighting. I mean, you go through, you count all of your wattages and you can kind of do that. But any numbers that I would give would be totally a guess.
Right.
It would be just a guess.
Mr. Simmons?
I think you'll see a difference, anyways, with these. And plus the other projects we're doing with this ARPA money, as far as the windows and the openings of the doors and all that sort of stuff. I think you're gonna see a big difference next year with your utility bills. If what we've already done here with the lights, the bathrooms and all that sort of stuff, I think you're gonna see a big difference. I really do believe it. Because a lot of the cold air is coming in through those windows. A lot of cold air is coming in through those windows.
Tim, how much money of the ARPA is left?
Right now, we're looking at $349,650.70.
Does that include all this?
No, that includes everything up to this. And just get the discussion rolling. We had a meeting with our budget committee last Friday. And the resolutions that you have in front of you would be sort of in tandem. What we would propose, what came out of the budget committee was to do this project using the delinquent tax revolving fund. And then on the second resolution, the balance of what's in the ARPA fund would go to offset the negative cash. And that would allow us to do this project. Otherwise, we're about $35,240 short. And I say that because the resolution I put together, as with all the others, I'm proposing a 10% contingency, just in case we get into something that, again, nobody imagined.
I thought you just said that there was 349 left of ARPA.
There's when this spreadsheet that's labeled 5C3 in there, and you'll see that at the very bottom. This is the sheet that Karen printed out from the BS&A system. I've added to the bottom the window replacement, energy efficient lights, secure entrance and ADA restroom. So it leaves us with a total balance of 349, 650, 70 cents.
And isn't the bid here 345?
The bid is 349, 900.
Oh.
Question for
Go
contract.
ahead.
Ron, if I didn't have to fund it with federal money, can I get a little flexibility on your bid? And get away from Davis Bacon? Get a little flexibility?
I guess I don't
Not a-
understand. the question.
Probably,
Well, ARPA money is federal.
Oh,
Tax revolving fund is not. Tax revolving fund is not federal.
Okay,
that's up to you.
Well, I got a different source for money, not federal.
So here's the deal. I'm a union contractor. My wages are there anyway.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah,
asking.
let me just,
I'm
can I
just
just,
asking.
can I just tell you guys something? Can I just tell you a little bit?
go ahead, sir.
We're 51% woman owned, 49% BA owned. Last year, we are a little over, right around 3 million, maybe a little more a year company. We average 12 employees. Last year, we had a payroll of $822,000.
Just shy of mine.
Huh?
Just shy of mine.
All of our employees live in Ogemaw County except for two. One of them buys only, he lives just across the line from Edmond. I don't live in Ogemaw County. I live in Internet County.
I know where you live. I got your number.
We do, Wise does between $20,000 and $40,000 a year pro bono. For example, we did the Veterans Museum. We donated the heating and cooling systems for that. We did the OVA building down there. We put in the furnace, and this is at no charge. Last year, we did the Chamber of Commerce building. This is how well I do my homework. It was about a $27,000 project. We put in the furnace, the air conditioner, all of the ductwork. And I found out that the Chamber of Commerce is not a nonprofit organization. I can't write that off as a tax deduction. That's what I thought. We buy from Vic Bond, Ace Hardware, Home Depot, and M Supply here locally. Vic Bond's corporate office is in Flint. Ace corporate office, I believe, is Oscoda. Home Depot's corporate office is in Atlanta, Georgia. M Supply of Midwest, their corporate office is in Traverse City. And Wise is located in
West Branch.
So a lot of this, and I didn't mean to.
No, we
I'm
appreciate
old,
that
right?
information,
Yeah,
100%.
Just get irritable.
I think we're 100%, I'll agree that we're moving forward. This is just not where the money's coming from, is what we're discussing.
Yeah, I don't think that it was, it's not gonna change our bid
All right,
because we're already there. That's
That's
why.
fair.
all right.
I mean, we're just there.
You didn't help me out.
Well,
That's
so here's the deal. You ask Scott if him and his coworkers are willing to work for
So
16.
don't worry.
So, can you take the floor on this, please?
Yeah, so with the two resolutions, it'd be two steps. We would pay for this project out of the delinquent tax revolving fund in its entirety. And use the remainder of what is in the ARPA fund to offset the negative cash. Ultimately, turns out with the bid being what it is, I think this is a better deal for us, because otherwise, if we were just gonna pay it with ARPA, we don't have enough fight to do it. Not to say we couldn't find it, not quite enough. Here's a way to get the boiler project and address part of the delinquent cash issue at the same time.
I thought our whole goal was to not touch this delinquent tax rate.
Right.
Hold
Okay.
on, please.
But if we're gonna touch it, you wanna touch it for a one-time project, not something that's gonna go on, for years, like buying an employee. So if you're gonna use it, this would be the way to do it. It's a single, one-time project, no ongoing cost. In fact, this one ends up potentially saving us some money, at least on the utilities.
Treasurer, I want to ask your opinion. What is it?
I agree that you should purchase the boilers from the delinquent tax revolving fund and use the remaining ARPA to offset the negative cash balance.
Commissioner Simmons?
All those on the budget committee, and they're pretty smart, and they have their own budgets, and they watch them pretty close. And they all come up with the same agreement. Do this with the tax revolving fund. And the remainder of the ARPA money we put in for the positive cash flow. And that way, when you start next year, you're golden.
no matter what, by the end of tonight, we have to have the remaining of that ARPA fund. It's gotta be at least, delegated.
It will be. If we do this.
Commissioner Mayhew.
The only thing I'm sad is we're only getting half of that already done. We're gonna get new boilers, but it still is not gonna be controlled.
If you were gonna get all of that, we'd be talking way, way different numbers.
Although,
Yeah.
but that's,
Yeah, I got
that's
it.
what I wanted. For the simple reason, the summertime. The girls still have heaters under the desk because the air conditioning's on so hard that they're froze.
So without
Nothing to
making
do with
any
the windows
promises,
or the lights. They can't control it.
I got it. That was never, I understand that. We went to the Atlanta courthouse and it was a similar situation. And I had gone up there and looked things over and they had bids anywhere from $30,000 to $150,000 or whatever. I don't remember the exact numbers. I stood up at the meeting and I said that for $17,000, I guaranteed them that I would correct their airflow problems. And I said, you don't have to pay me until I'm done. And if you're not happy with what we've done, you don't owe me any money. I won't do that here because that's a.
We're here to tell serious stories.
Scott, Mr. Scott, go ahead.
You're gonna ask me?
What the hell?
Yeah,
You know where
I was going.
You know where I'm at. I mean, I was hoping to get a little bit of a deal because I can get away with different kind of financing.
No, hold on.
But that's just exactly the way I wanted to go anyway.
Yeah.
The tax revolving fund, I've said it a million times, is set up to take care of to make the townships whole and all that stuff, but to do one-time things. We've been weaning ourselves off of it to operate the general fund. And we're at that year that we can do that finally. But we can take care of our problem. Once we get this, we'll save some money. I believe we'll save some money with all the projects. And then the air handling system will be next.
I should be raising my hand. I know better.
That's what I'm gonna do next to it, yeah. Commissioner, hold on, Commissioner Wiltie.
Yeah, in agreement. I mean, we've talked about this for a long time. We wanted to get some major issues in the county building fixed with this ARPA money. We're doing that. We're gonna see cost savings with that. And then I look at this as if we vote yes on this, this is a historic moment for Ogemaw County. We've made a ton of hard decisions the last 2 years. We've had this negative cash stuck right in our face. It's time to move forward. We're working hard on that. We're gonna see our first quarter numbers next month. I think we're gonna be really happy with that. And I think having this done, we still will have some negative cash, but we'll be able to come up with a good plan to finish that off. And then I understand Commissioner Mayhew's concerns because I have that also. But that's what we're working on. We're working on to have a fund balance so we can eventually use a little bit of fund balance for capital investments. Plus, we have a strong, tax revolving fund, and that again is like Commissioner Scott said, to use for these purposes. So we're heading in the right direction. We vote yes on this. We get a large chunk of this negative cash deleted, and we just continue to keep pushing and working hard to get this position figured out in the county. So this is good. This is good.
Sir, you had the floor.
I think that if you were to do the air handlers, et cetera, first, you would be making a mistake because all those controls would be set up getting water from antiquated equipment.
Yep.
And then then it'd be bad. I think that doing them first, what you will have, if we get involved with those boiler systems, you'll have access to us for consulting. And that's worth a lot of money in.
If I'm not
We're pretty
mistaken,
reasonable on consulting.
it's 10 grand a month for the light bill over there.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give you an idea, old motors that run those pumps, as far as on those boilers, the new motors can be up to 85% more efficient in electrical use.
Yep.
So I mean, they're just,
What's the warranty on these?
I was in there, I remember off the top of my head.
How many years are we looking at?
The boilers have on the heat exchangers are 10 years. On the heat exchangers,
just-
if I'm right.
Can't imagine one of these us having to replace one of these on an emergency basis. I mean, it needs to be done, so.
Well, if
once-
the boilers themselves aren't that expensive, once you get all this other stuff, all your gas drains and stuff.
Yeah.
Then if you have to change the boiler, a lot of that stuff is already in place.
Yeah.
It's
10
not
years.
there now.
That and the consulting fees.
Yeah,
Okay, can someone entertain a motion for this?
I'll make a motion,
For what?
whatever it is you want.
What are you doing?
I second that.
What are you doing, Commissioner Simmons?
Making a motion that we accept this bid for these boilers.
Okay,
Yeah,
and you're gonna pay for it how?
we're gonna pay for it out of the cash revolving fund.
Delinquent tax revolving fund.
Yeah, delinquent
Yeah.
tax, sorry, I had the wrong tax.
Would that include the purchase as bid and the 10% contingency?
Yep,
Second,
Motion from Commissioner Simmons, support from Commissioner Wiltie, discussion?
I think it's a good decision. I think it's a
Discussion,
great
Commissioner,
motion.
got anything?
No, not anymore.
Okay, roll call vote?
Jenny David,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
No.
Charles Wiltie,
yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yes,
Craig Scott.
Yes. Thanks, Ron.
Negative cash tax revolving fund.
I thank everybody, even you, Roger. For the questions. We'll do the best we can. We've done, I mean, that's all we can
I
do.
feel all these years that we've been consulting and it hasn't cost me a cent.
Yeah, you've asked me a lot of stuff.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Negative cash and tax revolving. Fund.
Dean. Relation.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion. Pay the first installment and into the negative cash with the remainder of the ARPA funds after all projects.
Yes.
We have a motion from Commissioner Scott,
I'll support it.
Hold on.
support from Commissioner Simmons, sir.
How do we get paid?
Well,
When the
check.
works-
over the next 10 years.
The next 10 years? Can we wait and not do any money transactions until after the first of the year?
Yeah.
I'll get you a contract, but yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll be in contact with our administrator.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ron.
sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
We have a motion from Commissioner Scott, support from Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion? No, roll call vote.
Roger Mayhew,
What are we voting on?
The discussion, it's on the negative
Geez,
cash
I
and
guess
tax
so.
revolving fund.
You know.
No, just.
Hold on. We said a roll call vote, huh?
Thought maybe it'd be cheese, I guess so.
what did you vote? I didn't hear you. No. Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yes,
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Jenny David.
No. Item D, 2025 marijuana operation oversight grant.
Grant that's administered by the health department on behalf of the county. We are officially the grantee, and that's why it comes through us instead of just with the health department. This continues the programs that they've had in place for a number of years now. They do follow a very strict guideline for the grant that's issued by the state. One unusual component to this, and this has been true each of the years, is that they do want to have me as authorized to sign the documents for the grant. It's just the way the grant's worded. They need what they call their chief administrative officer of the entity to be their sign off. So normally that's the board chair, but in this case, they specifically called out on your administrator to do that. That's the only difference from other grants that we typically accept.
Questions, comments?
No, I saw this last year. I get it.
I'm good.
Anybody entertain a motion?
Yeah, why not?
Commissioner.
I'll support.
Commissioner.
I'll support it. What the hell? I mean, what the heck?
Discussion, roll call vote.
Charles Wiltie.
Yes.
Brenda Simmons,
Yeah.
Craig Scott,
Sure, why not?
Jenny David.
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Commissioner comments, Commissioner Simmons, any comments? Commissioner Mayhew.
Go ahead.
Those cities, they're gonna.
Do you
Okay.
have any more business?
Commissioner Simmons, he's speaking.
Just ask him a question.
Go ahead.
You can speak all he wants.
Floor.
This is my section.
The city of Rose City is supposed to be okay and to get the marijuana deal turned loose in Rose City. They're going for some grants for battery powered jaws of life for the fire department. Clacking Township, they're still having trouble with people getting rid of their trash for free. I mean, things are tough. Rose Township's having the same trouble. So that's it.
Commissioner Scott?
I'd like to wish all of us and everybody that's watching Merry Christmas and all that jazz. And Commissioner Simmons's last meeting tonight. I've had the pleasure of working with her for 4 years
Commissioner Simmons,
at two different terms.
where are you going?
Going home.
I've had to,
I'm just packing my stuff up.
I had to do this a few years ago and say that when she left the other time, but we may agree and disagree and everything else, but it's been a good run. I didn't have to worry about her holding a grudge after a meeting. If we had disagreed on something, we could agree to disagree if we had to, but most of the time I would say that we agreed. So I'm happy to say that I'm happy that I served with her. And I mean, we all know, and Mr. Bitterdell made it a point about how much this job is a stress and everything else. We all get hit with stuff on the street every day, everything else, you know,
Do I get to keep this?
Commissioner Simmons,
All right,
we're not done.
you could fire me.
so, you know, I mean, it takes a select person to devote their time toward their community, and Brenda has done that very well over the years.
That's very well
That's it.
appreciated, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you.
Yes.
No.
Commissioner Wiltie.
We had a transit meeting this morning. We had a number of people missing. January 3rd will be the last day for Ray, our former transit director. January 3rd is his last day. But we still had a pretty productive meeting. We went over, two different items. One item that we'll continue to work on. It isn't gonna happen overnight, but we do know the concerns of, the Saturday service, and we will continue to look into options if there would be, any possible way that, we could maybe do a hybrid service. But again, those are things we're just gonna start looking into. We gotta look at a lot of data. We've got to, have a lot more conversations, regarding that. I had a Northeast Michigan Housing Alliance Zoom meeting today. Yvonne was with the housing. She was on that earlier. It's another entity that might be started for that the original Northeast Housing Partnership, which is Target Alpena is the fiduciary of. So right now we're just in beginning stages. We want to kind of listen to see how things are going to go with that. Obviously, we have no money as a county to put towards that, but we're at the early stages right now. We want to see where that gets developed. One item that I forgot to mention last week was the high banks. Danny Johnson, who was on our Parks Rec, has really quarterbacked that very well out there. The 501c3 is now up and running, and at our Mills Township meeting last Tuesday, we received the first check for $500 for that. So I will see that Tim gets the information needed where people can reach out to for donations for that.
In the paper.
Other than that, just also I said something last week about, last 2 years working with Brenda. We obviously had our disagreements.
Several.
I always appreciate people that have a passion for something, and there's no doubt that Brenda has a ton of passion for Ogemaw County. And I have enjoyed working with you, Brenda, and I wish you the absolute best. Other than that, I wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, and I am very, very happy that we've put a big dent in that negative cash flow. I know sometimes I sound like a broken record, but we just gotta keep the dial down. We gotta keep working hard. We got a long ways to go, but we are heading in the right direction to get this financial position of the county figured out. And then one last thing, I have fielded a little more comments regarding the commissioners defunding the Ogemaw County Sheriff's Office. As Tim said last week, the data shows, we're going off the facts. The sheriff department receives more money now than it did 5 years ago. We're continuing to hold on with their 24/7 millage because we want to see that prosper and go the way it should. I'm happy to see that today the officer that went through Traverse City's academy is in uniform, and that's fantastic. I know the sheriff has some possible other candidates that I hope that we can get in and we can keep this moving forward and get that 24/7 back up and running. It's something that we'll continue to talk about. I think it should be talked about weekly, and hopefully we can see that going sooner than later. So other than that, we did have a law enforcement meeting today. It was not highly attended. There was no participation from the sheriff's department. But we did have some pretty positive talks. Breck had a number of issues which we greatly appreciated. She had on paper for us to talk about. We had some representation from Wills with
MDIC,
Swinging.
MDs.
MDIC,
MDIC.
IVC, yes.
So again, this transition, we know we'd have challenges. It's all about our consistency of having the meetings, which we've been very consistent every 2 weeks. We need to communicate. Communication is everything, so we can work on these issues. We're looking at some different options, so there's better communication between us, the courts, and Gladwin County. Tim's gonna be looking at some options on that. It's just all about the communication. We've got to be able to stay consistent. We've got to be able to talk because we're going to continue to have some challenges. And I'm really excited to see what January brings when that first quarter numbers come back. That's all I got.
You go first or me? Go ahead.
Me.
Go ahead, Commissioner Simmons.
These last 2 years have been really great because I've seen some progress. The first time I was commissioner with my first 3 terms, what's happening now is I tried to get that to happen when I was commissioner the first time. And when I was on the road one day, Karen called me and she said, "You're getting a lot of pushback about closing that jail." And I said, "Well, let them do what they want to do then. I'm one vote." And they voted continually not to close that jail. And I told them, if they don't close that jail, what's going to happen? And you know what? You guys are finally, we as a group are taking the steps to undo what I said was gonna happen when I was commissioner the first time. Because you just can't maintain it. And he says, Commissioner Scott says it all the time. When we get $31 a day for a prisoner, and it costs us $69 a day to keep them, we're subsidizing other counties. And that has basically broke us. And that's why we are where we are today. That jail has done nothing but cost us money since it's been built. So I'm so happy to be part of that, to make all this happen, to make it so we can be not broke all the time. So it has been fun. And in that aspect, I have really enjoyed this, being a commissioner this time because of what has happened. And no, I'm not anti-jail and I'm not anti-law. Like when I go knock on a few doors, they say, "Oh, you're anti-jail, anti-law." No, I'm not. I'm trying to keep this county, I was trying to keep the county back then, out of hock. But I got too much pushback and here we are. And we're finally making the right decisions. So thank you. I really appreciate working with you on this term. The last 3 terms, I didn't get much accomplished because I had too much pushback. That's all I want to say. I'm just happy to be a part of this progress. And that's exactly what it is, progress. Thank you. Thank you.
It's gonna be very interesting to see where we are next year as far as our funds.
Yeah.
I think everybody just stated as far as us disagreeing as a board, I think we're supposed to disagree. I think that's what makes a board good. That's what makes a board successful. We all sit here, we all have different opinions, we all have different backgrounds, we all have different directions as far as where we like to see this, certain things move. Obviously, our main objective is for the county to be a success. As long as we disagree in a professional manner and respect everybody's opinion, I think that is the most important.
I don't.
It's been an honor sitting here and serving with Commissioner Simmons, even though she's been a little difficult from time to time to keep in line. She does raise her hand now.
And he tells me not to
But
raise it.
she is probably one of the most passionate individuals I've ever worked with. She does her own work, she does her own background, she does her own fact checking, as she says repeatedly. I don't always agree with her. Probably 50% of the time I do not agree with her, but
I can't help it,
we
you're
ag-
wrong 50% of the
we
time.
agree to disagree. And again, she's one of the most passionate females that I've ever met, especially when she believes in something, she will definitely find a way to make it happen. And for that, I will forever respect you. And it has been a pleasure working with you, and I will greatly miss you. So I thank you for all the work that you did behind the scenes and in front, but definitely behind the scenes. You definitely do your homework and do your work. So that's been appreciated. So please enjoy your retirement.
I will.
Actually go do something you want to do. So anyways, that's all I had.
I'm
to
on a
say.
spending spree now, right after January. My own money though, not
Okay.
county money.
Public comment, any public comment in the room? Any public comment on the phone? Dan, did you have anything tonight? He stated to me last night that he didn't get anything. You have the floor, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I would also like to thank Brenda Simmons for her service, and I couldn't agree with her more. Been at most of your meetings and listened with the comments about the jail for over a year, and they were given adequate time to come up with a plan, and they never did. So I know it's a hard decision. You guys had to do it, and I think it was a good decision. I just want to say I'd like to also see, I know Charlie mentioned about trying to get the 24/7 back in place. I just got my tax bills. I'm paying for it. Same with the dog catcher. I know that's all in the works. But a lot of people are asking about 24/7. I hear it daily when I'm in town, and we're not getting any results. I'd like to see that, taken care of soon. Merry Christmas to all you, and I'll see you next year.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Closed session to discuss collective bargaining.
Yes, it won't take long. It'll take 5 minutes.
Thanks, Bruce.
There'll be no business after, correct?
Correct.
No business after. I'll go home now.
Is that your motion? Is
Merry Christmas.
that your motion?
What?
And she seconded it?
To go into closed session, yes. For collective bargaining, MCL 15.2681C.
Merry Christmas, Karen. Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas, everyone.
Have to come
Bye,
back
guys.
next Monday. Did those claims.
By the way, I'm doing the same studies on animal control costs and jails and transit.
Fantastic.
Tri-county, you wanna work together. Thing, I'm doing the thing.
Are you letting Tom know?
Thanks, Tom.
Listening to you right now.
I'm
Don't
waiting
forget
for the
yourself.
vote.
There you go. I sometimes.
Roll call vote. We're going into
Why I
closed
said that.
session.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Craig Scott,
Yes.
Brenda Simmons.
Yep.
Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew,
Yes.
Jenny David.
Yes.
I'll call you, Tom.
All day today, well, like, go over it.
I make a motion to
Chance.
adjourn the meeting,
Don't wait.
or no,
No.
come back in open session. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
A motion to come back.
I'll miss you. You can call,
We have to come back.
don't text.
Come back in open session. Roll call vote.
Yeah.
Did who seconded that?
Craig did and I did.
Yeah.
Okay. Charles Wiltie,
Yes.
Roger Mayhew.
Yeah.
Jenny David.
Yes.
Craig Scott.
Yes.
One more motion for you, Brenda, come and you can make the last one.
Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Brenda Simmons.
Make the motion.
I need her to
No.
say yes to come
Yes.
back into open.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Have we all come back in open session? already?
Yes.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Support.
Motion with support from Commissioner Simmons at 7:29. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You are.
Endless bags from you.
This reminds me of the basketball game.
Oh my
In the
gosh.
field, and there's still 5 seconds on the clock.
Yeah.
This stuff is from you, Tim. Thanks.